Hello, everybody. Mike Miller, Herald Times, coming to you from the fabulously cavernous, seldom full Bryce Jordan Center here on the campus of Penn State after Indiana's 64-62 victory over Penn State. A nail-biter, a rock fight, all sorts of things you could describe this game. But at the end of the day, it is the Indiana victory. The Hoosiers are now 2-0 here after the first leg of Big Ten play. They'll pick it back up about a month from now with a couple games right out of the gate against Illinois and Michigan, I believe, off the top of my head. But a key opening stretch ends with 2 victories here in this early start to league play for Indiana. This one made possible by the freshman. Romeo Langford did Romeo Langford things, then handed off the baton to Rob Phinisee in the second half. Rob Phinisee had some really good moments on the offensive end, midway late in the first or second half, and then just had a really heads-up key defensive moment on the final inbounds play, I believe, with 2.3 seconds left. Switching a screen where Justin Smith gets kind of lost in the screen. Lamar Stevens springs open, but Rob Phinisee's right there. He jumps on to Lamar Stevens right as Justin Smith is losing him amid the screen, and just the mass of humanity right there trying to spring Stevens free. Phinisee gets on him, gets the deflection, kills the final seconds off the clock. Indiana gets out of here with a win, much needed win. It's the third time since the 2012-13 season that Indiana started 2-0 in Big Ten play, and each of the previous 2 times they've done so, they've won the league, both in the 2013 season and during that 15-16 season as well. A lot to cover here. Interesting game. I don't know if interesting is actually the right word. As I said, this is a rock fight of a contest. Indiana had a 4-point lead at halftime, which was frankly, darn near miraculous given the way they started this one. I believe they were 1 for 11 to start the game from the field. That allowed, I think they were down, 9-1 on the glass, just not playing well at all. Which was, they had been sloppy in each of their previous 2 road games, but this was important. Those 2 games were kind of supposed to build to this. I won't say a must-win game, but an important conference game. What looks like it's going to be a fascinating race to the finish in the Big Ten this year. It was really important that they didn't repeat some of those same mistakes that they did or that they had at Arkansas and at Duke. But lo and behold, the first 8 minutes were not good at all. It was bad basketball, really, from both teams. But when you look at Indiana's side of it, it seemed to be playing with a lack of purpose on the offensive end, just defensively, just sloppy. And then things got into gear, and a couple plays that might go, just almost forgotten after everything that happened later, were a couple back-to-back threes from Devontae Green really got Indiana going. And then you can't really talk about this game without mentioning Clifton Moore, who got off the bench and ended up playing, what did he log here, 7 minutes. And it was really those first 1 or 2 minutes that were really that made the difference here. It came into a game where Deron Davis was in foul trouble. Juwan Morgan was playing his way back from that leg injury suffered at Northwestern. Came in a spot where Indiana just needed some size, needed some length, and gave Indiana some really good run. So like I said, during that first minute or 2 he was on the floor, had a 3-point play, had a block, had a couple big rebounds. Was just kind of all over the stat sheet early on, just kind of feeding his confidence, which I think we can all probably see that needs to happen for a guy that is still trying to earn the trust of the coaching staff to be able to get in these moments. But again, getting out there, it was an uneven night from Clifton Moore, make no mistake. I mean, he got beat defensively, had a couple other moments that were just kind of, but again, to kind of step into a situation that, your name's called, you got to play, as Romeo Langford said, you got to be ready, he said. He was ready to step in and gave Indiana some good minutes, which I think is a positive development going forward, both for Indiana to maybe find a little bit more added depth on the bench, but also for Clifton Moore to kind of feel good about himself and get into some action and make some positive plays, even if it was ultimately a bit of an uneven night for him. But first half was you got the plays from Romeo Langford that you're so used to seeing. And then right at the end is when you started to see Rob Finney, and I think this was a really important night from Rob Finney for a few reasons. You got to see him going right at the end of the first half. He holds for the last shot, drives the lane, and finishes with a nice little scoop that gives Indiana a 4-point cushion again, which was pretty remarkable given the way the first 8 minutes started, that they had that 4-point lead at halftime. And then in the second half, it was a lot more from Rob Finney. He scored 10 of his 12 points in the second half. He hit a big three-pointer after Penn State had cut Indiana's lead back down to 4 points. Was most of all just playing in a way that we haven't really seen him play, maybe the last week or so. Just playing more aggressive. He was talking about just playing the need to play more downhill, play just north to south, go to the basket. Don't necessarily allow himself to stagnate in the half court and try to pick spots, but just go and find the basket in a way that opens up and takes pressure off guys on the wings, guys like Romeo Langford, and you would hope at some point a guy like Justin Smith too. Just play in a way that opens things up, play in a way that commands attention, commands a defense to really keep an eye on you, and he did that. He played really aggressive again. He played really strong, really sound. 5 assists, only 1 turnover. It was a really strong finish, and again, he had that defensive play at the end of the night that also kind of shows. As much as we like to talk about the offensive upside, I think, of Romeo Langford and Rob Finney, I think it's meaningful that we're also seeing some really good defensive plays in key moments. Now, it's not to say that the entire body of work defensively is where it needs to be, because I think certainly in Romeo Langford's case, there's work that needs to be done. But like you saw in the Northwestern game with Romeo Langford, with those hit that key deflection late, guarding Vic Law. In a moment where they needed Romeo Langford to be the star with Juwan Morgan out in that Northwestern game. He did that, made a big play in that moment, and then you saw Rob Finney kind of do the same here. Just reading the situation, switching when he technically wasn't supposed to switch, but it was an important switch. He had to switch. I mean, otherwise Lamar Stevens is open to get a look at tying the game and forcing overtime. But he was a heads-up play, a kind of free-flowing spur-of-the-moment decision. And it was a big one. It was an important one, and he made it. Now, like I said, a rock fight of a game. Indiana finishes with, 16 turnovers. 11 of those came in the second half. I believe our old buddy Dustin Dopirak pointed out Indiana had 11 turnovers and 11 field goals in the second half, which really was kind of illustrated the way that second half went. Indiana built, I believe, a lead that was led by 14 points about 5 minutes into the second half. And they had a couple 11-point leads about midway late in the second half, led by 11 with 4 minutes left. But it did seem that offensively in the half court, they were trying to stall and were trying to kill some clock, which you understand. But also, for a team that is still, I think as I wrote, a team that doesn't have a lot of experience playing with each other, a team that's still feeling itself through the first month plus now, a team that's still trying to find that chemistry, that ability to play in sync, both in, especially in the half court, on offense. You just kind of saw a team that I don't know if they were unsure of itself, but certainly you kind of felt things, to use the old football way of looking at things, kind of got a little conservative, and it stagnated from there, and that allowed Penn State to make a run. I think there was an 8-0 run late that allowed Penn State to get back in this one and get within 2 points, and ultimately make this one a ball game down to the final, electric 2 seconds of this one. But again, you saw big moments from freshmen playing above their age, playing above their experience. Important moments, again, from Romeo Langford in the first half, hitting big shots, Rob Finney doing the same, but also dictating the offense in an aggressive manner, an aggressive downhill north-south manner that opened things up for others. Indiana's 2-0. These have not been pretty victories. They have been nothing close to the kind of end-to-end performance IU authored against Marquette in the Gavitt games last month. But this does feel like a Big Ten season where, first of all, playing in some games like this early on, I think in some ways can help a little bit with some of these guys kind of learning what it takes to grind out games. Perhaps that's a good thing. We'll see. On the other end, you're probably going to see a few more of these. I mean, this is a much deeper league, as we mentioned after the Northwestern game. It does seem to be a much deeper league. Um, you're going to have to find ways to win. And I think all things considered, on a night when they certainly didn't get many calls, some definitely more. I hate to, as I said at the last Scoop Talk after Northwestern, hate to bring in officiating, but some very questionable calls tonight. To play through that, to play in a place where there have been some close games against an opponent that has forced you to play close games over the last few years, to grind out and win and get a victory during a portion of the year where this team's still growing, still trying to find itself, still find each other and play in sync. It's no doubt a good thing moving forward. So they'll pick up in January with 2 wins when they restart the second leg, the longer leg of Big Ten play with, I believe, Illinois and Michigan. Second time I'm saying this off the top of my head. I hope that's correct. I should probably consult the schedule. Anything else? Talked about just about everything, I think. That'll do it. IU is 7-2, 2-0 in the league. Like I said, the last 2 times Indiana started 2-0 in the league, they've won the league. We'll see. Interesting. It's going to be that January matchup at Michigan is going to be fascinating. But you still got a few big games in between there, including what's up next for Indiana, a game at home against Louisville, a Louisville team that's playing pretty well, it seems. So they get the third game, and what I believe is a 3-game series that's gone the last 2 years. Finally get the Cardinals in Bloomington on Saturday afternoon. I believe that's a 2:30 tip-off. I should really consult a schedule before I keep throwing these things out there. Double check me on that. I believe it's on Saturday at 2:30. Anyway, I think that's just about it. Not another great night from Justin Smith. Scoreless, had 9 rebounds, but also 3 turnovers. Just, we could do a whole nother Scoop Talk on him, and maybe we'll touch on him kind of later in the week. But not the start to the season anyone envisioned from Justin Smith, especially kind of given what we heard coming out of the summer. But definitely a guy who's I'm not even sure it's an issue of battling consistency. I think he's still just trying to find that initial footing for his sophomore year. So a trying first month for Justin Smith continues. Juwan Morgan, as we said, started, had some padding on his right shin, just kind of going down the box over here. I think we pretty much touched on most of it. I'll stop there. I should probably leave anyway. I think my State College has the best grocery store in the Big Ten, Wegmans. Heard of it. I think they might close here in the next half hour. So I should probably run. See you back in Bloomington. Thanks, guys.